Just double check we're live on my feed. On the
looks live.
Yeah. So it looks live. That's good news. That's so it's Accountability Monday. It's 7 o'clock on Monday evening, and Johnny's back with me. How are you, Johnny?
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry about the. I'll have to disappear every now and again. You can have too much of a good thing.
Yeah, we talked about you last week, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, we had a good old natter about how terrible you was. So
exactly. Yeah, Accountability Monday, and he's not here.
No, he's not here no, at all.
That's a red flag, isn't it? If ever you're someone.
Now I'm just making sure
we're live everywhere.
Yeah, I'm just live everywhere because is it? Am I? Yeah, end room. No, it said it's streaming. It should be streaming to everywhere. So anyway,
yeah, look,
it's recorded regardless. So if it doesn't go out live, then I'll be stumped. But this week I was sitting there racking my brains about what to talk about this week, and I was thinking. Someone actually posted something the other day about organisation. How do you organise yourself, and how do you keep tabs of things? And that might be a good one to sort of like uncover today and have a discussion about, because we both live reasonably busy lives ourselves, and we're both entrepreneurs and business owners, and we've got our own, and I think you mentioned earlier, spinning lots of plates, probably a lot more plates than I am at the moment. So I'm just going to sort of touch on how people can hack their brains, because I'm a great believer in brain hacks. And when I say hack your brain, I don't mean literally cut your top of your head off and have a look around. And I'm talking about, biohacks that you can do. And if you understand how your brain works and what's going on, then we can shortcut things. We could accelerate things and get better results. So let's have a little discussion about that today. How do you organise yourself? What sort of tricks do you use, John?
That's the thing. You're probably asking the worst possible person. This is like this is my Achilles heel. So I mean, I'll be looking for some tips here.
This is called Accountability Monday, right? Come on.
Well, I mean, the way I solve it is to delegate it. I mean, it's a cop out, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, obviously it depends what, obviously things like wealth dynamics and what type of personality and what quadrants you're in and stuff like that. I mean, I'm very much seeing on angles on things and stuff like that. So if I need something to get finished, I'll have to hand it over to someone that's going to complete it. So obviously on the insurance side of things, we've got Josh. So Josh is he's my completer. So I can basically come up with some ideas, come up with strategies, and then I'll pass it over to him, and away it goes and it gets completed. So he very much sees it through to the end, and he's very good on that. So that's a foil to me. Right. And obviously on the finance side of things, I've got Jackie, and other people. But yeah, you've just got to. You can play one, can't you? People getting overwhelmed. I mean, there's so many layers to this, really, isn't there? You've just, you've got to. I think you've almost got to prioritize them as well. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you're trying to achieve something in life, in business. So I suppose you've got to think if you've got a list of sort of 6 or 7 things, which of those 6 or 7 things are going to take you closer to your goal as quickly as possible, and just work on that. So I mean, I think sometimes we try and do too much, and it comes back to probably the Pareto effect, isn't it? The 80-20 rule. To pick the things that are going to make the biggest difference to pushing you forward. I mean, that's where I concentrate on. But from an organisation point of view, I wouldn't say.
I think you make a very valid point there, and I think there's a couple of things that are going through my mind as you're talking about that. There is that we have to have a sort of like an idea of what you're doing this for, and if you can sort of get to that why quite quickly. But I'm a great believer in, say, brain hacks are great if you understand how your brain works, right? You know the most addictive drug that your body produces?
What, the dopamine?
Dopamine, yeah. It's the most addictive drug that you produce, and we know this by the social media companies. They understand this, and this is why they keep you on flicking up on reels or shorts or whatever they are. TikTok's the most addictive app there is out there, and people spend hours on TikTok and they just get lost. And the reason why it's so effective is you get a dopamine hit on a regular basis, and dopamine doesn't last very long. It's the reward chemical of the brain, right? So we go out as gathering whatever we need to do, and we get that reward every time we get a hit. So if we know that that's the most addictive drug that you produce in your brain, we can hack that, right? And the way I do it is I've got a flip chart over here, and I've got originally I started with 30 days on it, and I wrote these squares out, and I was doing a post-it note, and every time I completed the things I needed for that day, I stuck the post-it note on that square, and that was giving me a dopamine hit, because obviously I'm ticking something off. But this is a lot more visual, so it gives me a bit of and looking buzz as well, because I'm looking at thinking I've completed 30 days, and then I thought, well, I could do 100 days. So I then wrote out another 70 squares, and I think I'm on day 56 now of them 100 days. But that got me really focused on doing the same things every single day that I needed to complete my 100-day challenge. And so if you understand what you need to, and that's what you said earlier, is like, if you've got a list of things you need to do, 80-20 rule, you know what produces the results you need to have. So you need to focus your attention on them things you need to achieve. So if you can do that, and then have some sort of physical. I mean, the problem with I don't know if you find this yourself, but the problem I have with modern technology is you can't see it visually like you can a big board with ticks on it or addresses on it or whatever, however you do it. And when I worked in a state agency years ago, I used to have whiteboards. And we used to have all the numbers on the whiteboards, and it was very visual. And my name would be up there with a number next to it, and I would want to make sure my number was bigger than everyone else's number. So it was a real driver for me, because I could see it visually. But when you've got computers nowadays, you've got to open an app and you've got to see it. I think it's sometimes harder with modern technology, unless you've grown up and you're young and you are used to that. But I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I mean, I think there's no right or wrong way. I think you've got to play to whatever you like. You say I mean, like, you probably still use a 1-31 filing system on a bloody filing cabinet, probably.
No, I've got rid of my filing cabinet, don't I? I'm not that antiquated.
And you sold your fax machine at long last. But no, I mean, I think it's like, it's whatever works for you, isn't it? I mean, there's, if you want to track your time, there's sort of apps you can use on your phone, time tracker, and I think it's data's really, really good, but it's got to be meaningful data, and then you can use that. I mean, we're constantly looking at data, but you've got to. I mean, it's very valuable, because at the end of the day, I know it's cheesy and cliche, isn't it? But if you don't measure it, you can't manage it, they say. So if you were, I mean, I was listening to something on the on YouTube the other day, and it was like there was someone going about sales and stuff like that, and they were saying, if people on just hitting the phones and just saying, can I? I'm selling. Pick a subject, like I'm ringing up. Do you want to buy some life cover? So people would try and sell life cover over the phone, but they said basically, if you re-engineer it and you just think, right, I'm actually just going to make 100 phone calls, but I'm going to start off by asking the question: you don't want to buy any life cover, do you? So basically, all you're doing is you're going to go through that list, and some people, well, actually, yeah, I do actually. So you're going to get 2 or 3 people that are going to. So all you're working at is like, how many calls do I need to get those yeses? And then you can think, right, okay, well, and then you work it backwards. I want to earn X, so I'm going to have to make 300 or 400 calls. But in this current climate, I mean, you could do it by your laptop, by the side of a pool, or whatever. So I think technology, yes, it's good and bad, isn't it? But I think
It's marvelous, Johnny. So the technology is marvelous, but I think when it comes to something visual like a brain hack, that's what I'm trying to get at, is that it's not, unless you've got the biggest issue with technology, as far as I'm concerned, is the interruptions. It's the notifications. It's, you get. I've got something here called Remarkable. I don't know if you've ever seen these. Right? This is a tablet.
I'm thinking of getting one.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about this is, right, you can do writing in it, but it's not. You have nothing else on there except to write. So you're not going to get a buzz, a ping, a ding, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important to understand. Is if you're working, you could easily get distracted, and before you know it, you're off on a tangent somewhere. I do this, right, because I'm obviously doing a lot of stuff on YouTube at the moment, and I start looking at the analytics, and then something crops up, and I start watching, and I think, hang on, whoa, and I have to pull myself back and say, no, I'm not going to go down and start watching some Formula One shit today. I'm gonna. So it's. And this comes back to my second point. It's not having a brain hack, but you've got to have the discipline to say, no, I'm not going to go down that route. I'm going to say what is important. So then that list you was talking about earlier, there's 6 things on there. There's who is it who talked about Eat That Frog? Is it Brian Tracy?
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, I think it was. And you just take the biggest, hardest thing on the list and just get it over and done with. Get it over and done with. Another one I used to use, especially when I was filtering back in 2008, 2009, when the market was on its knees and I was trading and I lost my confidence a little bit, is I was thinking, well, if I only make 2 calls today, well, I can't just make 2 calls. That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? But just starting the process of doing something towards the end goal is usually enough to get you motivated to do more. And then that 1 call turns into 2. Before you know it, there's 10, there's 12. And before you know it, I'm seeing 5 or 6 houses, and I've agreed one within a very short period of time. So and again, that's a brain hack in a way, because you're trying to trick yourself into saying, well, I can't just do 2 calls. It's ridiculous. So you'll end up doing more.
I mean, I've heard people sort of setting their phone to have like 15 or 20-minute alarm cycles. So your phone goes off, sort of like a little blib or something on your phone every 20 minutes as a sort of just a jolt, like a bit of electric shock, to say, are you actually doing what you should be doing? Or like have you just managed to start whipping yourself onto Twitter and you're looking about F1? So it's just like a thing, come on, let's get you back in your lane, doing the work you should be doing. But I think, I mean, it's a great subject, because what you've got to remember is there's so many big corporates out there that want your eyeballs. So this is going to get harder and harder and harder for people to basically wrestle control back. Take control back. I read those words before.
The new gold, effectively, the biggest value is your attention. It's not even your data anymore. It's your attention. The longer they can keep your attention, the better it is for them to serve you up what they want to serve you up. And that's the other thing as well, is I am acutely aware of how manipulative these media companies are, these social media companies are, and how they literally present to you the stuff that the algorithms suggest that that's what you want, and you can get stuck in a vortex. So that leads on to another issue, which is you could get easily distracted in an area where you've got false information. Now, you said to me earlier about there was going to be your daughter found out on TikTok there was going to be an announcement from the palace. Well, do you know where that came from? It was a false fake news about the king was dead in Russia. And so that's where, so everyone's waiting for this big announcement. And it's fake news, right? And it's so easy to get literally drawn into something. And if you're in business in a certain field, you could be literally taken completely off track if you're not careful, just by how it's presented to you in a way where the algorithm gives it to you rather than what you actually want.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Because I'm very disciplined about what I search for. I'm very, very disciplined. And I also do this deliberately. I've got 3 YouTube accounts. And the reason why I've got 3 YouTube accounts is that they're not going to keep serving me up the same shit as they were on the other account, because they get used to serving you stuff up. So I'll go onto another YouTube account, otherwise you'll get fed the same information. And so, and if you're aware of this, you could do something about it. But people are oblivious. They are oblivious, John. Honestly, you'd be surprised.
Well, and I think it's only going to get worse, isn't it? Because you've got, people. I mean, I know we said earlier today when we spoke about YouTube, and you can't put something on YouTube and make it too clickbaity if the subject and the transcripts don't align. That it's going to get blocked. But obviously, a lot of things are, the actual image people put up can be very clickbaity. And obviously, I mean, you're going to have, obviously, what's it, 73 elections in the world this year or something like that, over 50% of the world voting. I mean, all this, I mean, America and you're going to see all this, information come out vying for your attention. I mean, in America, it's going to be, well, I mean, obviously Putin ideally wants Trump in power, so there's going to be loads of fake news, I would think, out there. And I mean, and like you say, it's, if you put that out, 24 hours before the election, and I think that stat I said to you earlier, 30% of under 30s that use TikTok use that information channel as their main source of information.
For news, that's ridiculous. For news on TikTok. It's bad. I couldn't understand why people use Twitter for news, but they do, because the news outlets use Twitter for that, and it's funny, you ever see that, the newsreel on the television, people on Twitter were going mad. And you think, really? Who gives a shit? That they do. I mean, people do. But anyway, so getting back to it, right? It's having the self-discipline and being aware of what you're doing and what you can do to stop yourself going down the wrong routes, and being focused on what you need to achieve. Because if you can put yourself a little brain hack in and understand how your brain works, and supply yourself some dopamine with just some really straightforward basic stuff like a visual, and then keeps you on track to achieve your objectives. And I think, and that's the other thing as well, is I don't know what you do, but at the beginning of the month, I'll be looking at this month and saying, this is what I want to do. And in order to do that, I need to do certain things each week. Now, sometimes, life gets in the way, something happens, and then I won't get that done. And then by the end of the week one, I'm behind. And then you'll be trying to catch up. So having that discipline to keep you on track is important, very important. And I go back to when I started my 100 life lessons. I had to do it every single day. And one of the reasons why I did that was because it was to get me back on track, doing something every single day to get them 100 days done. So if it's knowing what motivates you, not on the big goal of the big idea, the big why, on a daily basis. Where do you function? What stimulates you? I mean, I don't know what gets you going. I mean, data gets me excited. I like to have a dig around and look at data. It's one I really get excited about.
I mean, I get satisfaction out of solving problems. So if I had 10 phone calls come in, and 9 of them were just very straightforward tasks, but one person said, rung everywhere, no one can do this for me, no one can insure this, and no one can get the finance on this. That's the task I will pick. That's a task so it's the hardest task to do, but it will give me the most satisfaction of solving. Because I suppose it's because I like learning. So I'm basically starting from a position of like, well, there's a problem out there, I've got to solve it. So is
it you're learning, or is it you're using your experience to manipulate it?
You're picking up a phone and trying to solve a problem, and you're also not accepting the word no, aren't you? People are saying, "No, you can't do this." It's like, so that always, it's like a lot of, it's like almost like watch me. So so
that reminds me of a talk I did recently with Rachel Taunton.
Shouting.
And she said to me, "What's the quickest you've exchanged contracts before?" I said 24 hours, but actually to exchange 24 hours with a mortgage with a when I was an estate agent, and that was they said it couldn't be done, and I knew I had to get it done really quickly, and that excites me. I'm the same as you. It's like, well, it can't be done. You want to bet? Let me show you how it's done. And I think I'm one of the things that really floats my boat, and I think this is important to understand for people out there listening or watching, is what actually floats your boat, really gets you excited. Me, it's dealing with people's issues, like, you know, their emotional issues. I love to, even in the property arena, there's usually some sort of psychological issue somewhere where I can step in and get really weighed in with my big size 9s or size 11s I've got. But I like to really understand the human brain and how someone's presented it in their mind, and that really gets my juices flowing. Is understanding psychology and someone else's model of the world, I suppose. So that's what I'd ask people to do, is, you know, find something that really motivates you, as far as some sort of system where you can have you know, a tick box or something where you can say, well, I get my dopamine hit, and then find out what really turns you on as far as what you do in your job. Because whatever you're doing is your business, if you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a small business owner or you're just working for somebody else, what is it that really gets you going? And do more of that shit.
Yeah, and also it's working on the things that, you know, looking, you know, it depends what your goals are, isn't it? But if you're looking at getting more businesses, and it's like, look back over the last RE or the last couple of months and what's worked really, really well from you. Because I think I'm guilty, like I'm sure a lot of people, is you get into a nice habit, you get into a good discipline, you start to get results, and the habits you formed that generate the good results, you abandon. You know, I mean, I've come up through financial services, and they used to say, and we were going back years, when you go face-to-face appointments, you go, you know, 2 appointments, you go there, fact find the client, come away, design some solutions, and you go back and present the solution, and you ask for the business effectively. And you used to sort of get asked recommendations, you know, and they'd have competition in the office, so you'd be almost forced to ask for recommendations, because everyone, you know, it's sort of different people have got different barriers, but you get in that habit of like, oh, you know, who else do you know that's got married recently, or looking to move house, or so you get into that habit, and it starts generating results. Suddenly your diary get really, really busy, and you're doing really, really well, and then you get out of that good habit you've got, and then the sine wave starts to come back. So it is, you know, it's quite interesting that you know, there's probably people on here that have done things in the past that worked really, really well for them, but you've got out of that habit, and you've just come away from it, and you're trying to solve a problem that, you know, that you might have had a solution to 3, 4, 5 months ago.
And the other thing as well is I was just thinking about the guy who presented this question, actually, a guy called Phil, and it's easy to get wrapped into noise. And classic example is that you said earlier about the market's gone a bit, the property market's gone a bit, the sheen's come off it a little bit, and it's easy to fall into the trap of listening to the noise and thinking, oh, okay, well, it's quiet out there, and you back off a bit, as opposed to just full steam ahead, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the market's good, bad, or indifferent. There's still a deal to be done somewhere. It's just you've got to uncover it. That's the way I look at things.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
yeah, and we can get talked into something if we're not careful. By, you know, it's not good out there, or you know, it's hard, and people believe shit. Right? They're told something once and they believe it, as opposed to question. Because I'm a very curious person, right? So if someone tells me something, I want to know, is that actually true? Is it really true? You know, the market's screwed. Okay, so let's dig around and find out, right? I want to see the data. I want to see, and also sometimes the data can be behind. So you might get information about something today, but what's actually happening in where the boots are on the ground are 2 different things. So, you know, it's reading things as well. Whichever industry you're in, doesn't matter what it is. If you're selling something, a service, a product, or whatever it is, if you're a property investor, you need to be looking at the bigger picture and to see what's going on, micro climates as well as the bigger picture, because I've seen it happen many a time where generally things are bad, but you've got little tiny microclimates that completely.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. In the 90s recession, I worked in Walthamstow, East London. Lots of chimney pots, very highly densely populated area, and there was a high turnover of stock. So, but we had lots of repossessions, and property prices were falling through the floor because every time we literally every week we were taking 5 to 10 repossessions on a week. It's ridiculous. But only not even 5 miles, 6 miles down the road in Upminster, they never fell because it was an affluent area. It was stagnant. I didn't go up, they didn't go down. But when a house come on the market, because there was not many chimney pots in that area, not many houses came on the market, they get snapped up. So you had two completely different climates within a marketplace, and you do get these pockets. So it's not just property I'm talking about, but generally you can have microclimates. So you hear someone saying, "Oh, it's really quiet. It's a recession out there," and someone's having it off and they're cleaning up, and because their attitude is different, and we're seeing little microclimates around somewhere, or their focus is on one type of product. So it's keeping abreast of what's really going on out there and questioning the information that you get.
Yeah, and also I suppose it's who's your end client, isn't it? And what market are you in, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of arbitrage models going on out there at the moment. I mean, there used to be the one I think people used to buy. Was it buy on eBay and sell on Amazon and stuff like that? All these little models. But I remember someone a while ago. Yeah, I mean, it's going back a long time, but the model will still be there. And he was buying jet skis off of eBay. And then he was basically relisting them in piston heads, which is obviously a very muddied par group, and so he was basically buying this, jet ski for £2.5 grand, putting the same images and everything back on the site for £3.5 grand. And he was picking it up for where he's bought it from, and they're just driving it up to the new owner that's just paid £1,000 more, because he's delivering a service, and he's like, oh, there you go. And it's so
it's no different to what I do with property trading. You're buying off the open market and sticking it into an auction and selling it for more money. Why does it work? Because it's a different marketplace. In an auction, you've got two people bidding, and you haven't got that scenario where I'm not going to pay too much and I might reduce the price, because the hammer falls, the deal's done. So you get a real-time marketplace. So I get they're all different markets that people buy and sell into, or they're trading in, or the service industry. It's just, I think, don't rely on what you're told. Always double check it. Double check everything. Honestly, I can't stress that one enough. It's really important.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't get
definitely
into what everyone else is saying and saying, well, this is so double check it.
100%.
Anything else to add, John?
No, I think that's I mean, I think it is. It's just like it's also breaking things down, isn't it? Like today, if you've got a yearly target, break it down into sort of, how many days you're gonna work per week, how many weeks you're gonna work per year. I mean, also I've done countdown targets as opposed to count up targets. They seem to work quite well. So but I think, anything like you've got your little board on the back. Certainly small, daily wins. Everyone wants a daily win, isn't it? How, if you sort of set yourself a little task for the first hour of the day and you get a couple of wins out of those tasks, the rest of the day, I mean, it was always, because we're, obviously been in sales a fair bit. You always find when you were doing sales, if you started the week off with a couple of good results, the rest of the week would be better. And it's weird, you would say the same things to clients, make the same amount of phone calls, but your take-up rate or your closing rate would be massively different. And that's just, I don't know, it's just something in yet. It's sort of like almost like a it wouldn't be body language because you're making these phone calls over the phone.
It's confidence, isn't it? Because if you're starting off, we used to do deliberately, we used to hold a few sales back each month until the next month, especially if you had a shit month this month and say, well, I might as well hold them off till next month. You start that month off with a plus straight away, it gives you a little bit of a boost, So I think we used to manipulate our figures terribly, but because it was all about how it was perceived by management and the bosses, and they wanted to see results. So but I think hopefully that's given some people some things to think about, and we go from there. So this it's nearly 7:30, and thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. I'm not sure we're going to talk about next week. What should we talk about next week?
I'm going to come up with the subject next week.
You're going to come up with that. Wow. Right. Okay. Yeah, I'll hold you to that. Just let me know in advance.
I will do.
All right. You take care.
No problem. Catch you later.
All the best. Right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Cheers. Bye. Everyone. Catch you later. Bye.